Every night, it was the same. When the entire neighborhood had turned off their lights, when the last siren had fallen silent and all the windows were tightly shut, she would sit alone at the old wooden table placed right next to the window. On the table was a scratched-up phone. The charging cable was wrapped tightly with multiple layers of tape. The screen had a crack in one corner from when it had once fallen onto the tiled floor. But every night, she charged it to full battery, not because she needed to use it, but because she was afraid that if Amir called at the exact moment the phone ran out of battery, he would think his mother had stopped waiting. Her son's name was Amir. This year, if he were still alive, he would have been 27 years old. In the past, Amir was the kind of person who was always smiling. He loved fixing machines, loved taking photos, and loved sitting for hours on the rooftop, watching airplanes cross the desert sky. Every time she scolded him for staying up too late, Amir would just smile. "Mom, go to sleep first. I still have so many things to do." Then the war began. At first, it was only fragmented news on the radio, distant explosions, military convoys passing through the residential area in the middle of the night. No one thought it would last long. But then, one by one, neighborhoods lost power. Roads were blocked. Families began to leave. The young people in the area gradually set out as well. Amir was one of them. On the day he left home, she stood at the door for a very long time. Amir hugged his mother tightly. "Mom, wait for me, okay?" She tried to smile. "Go for a few weeks and then come back. Don't make Mom worry." Amir nodded. "I promise." During the first few weeks, Amir still sent messages home regularly. "Mom, have you eaten yet?" "I'm fine today. It's colder here than I thought. I miss the lentil soup Mom cooks." Sometimes Amir even sent a photo of the sunset. In the picture, a fiery red sky stretched behind ruined concrete buildings and columns of black smoke rising into the air. She didn't understand how, in a place like that, her son could still stay calm enough to take photos. But she was happy. As long as the phone vibrated, as long as she saw Amir's name appear on the screen, she knew her son was still alive. Then the messages began to come less frequently. 3 days, 5 days, a week. Amir said the network was weak, said the area often lost power, said sometimes he had to keep moving. Then one day, the last message appeared. "Mom, don't sleep. Okay, I'm coming home soon." She read that line over and over again hundreds of times. That night, she didn't sleep. She brewed tea in advance. She cooked a pot of hot soup. She turned on the light on the porch and sat waiting. She thought Amir might come home at midnight. Or tomorrow morning. But no one knocked on the door. 1 day, 2 days, 1 week. Amir's account was no longer online. 8 months later, a man from his old unit came to find her. He brought with him a singed backpack, a watch with a shattered face, and a phone warped from intense heat. He spoke very slowly. There was a drone attack on a convoy at the edge of the residential area. No one had time to run. We only found these things. She sat still. She didn't cry. She didn't ask anything. She just stared at the phone lying on the table. The man stood up to leave. But before stepping out the door, he turned back. "Amir always talked about you." He kept his phone very carefully. Right before it happened, he still said, "My mum is probably waiting for my message right now." From that day on, she carried the phone with her everywhere. When she went to get water, she took it with her. When she cooked, she took it with her. When she slept, she placed it next to her pillow. Every small vibration made her startled. Sometimes it was just an advertisement message. Sometimes it was a wrong number calling. Sometimes it was just a sound from the neighbor's house. But every time, she would frantically open the phone, hoping, then disappointed. People in the neighborhood began to say she was no longer in her right mind. They told her she should accept the truth. They said Amir would not come back anymore. But how could a mother stop waiting when the last thing her son left behind was a promise to return? One night during a heavy rain, the electricity in the entire neighborhood was cut off. She sat in the darkness, holding the phone that was almost out of battery. Outside, the wind blew fiercely. The sound of window panes rattling continued non-stop. Right at that moment, the phone screen lit up. A notification appeared. Amir's account had just come online. Her hands trembled. She opened the app. The words active now appeared for a few seconds, then disappeared. Immediately after, a message was sent. "Sorry, Mom, I'm coming home too late." She burst into tears. She called non-stop. No one answered. She sent dozens of messages. "Where are you? You're still alive, right? Mom is waiting for you." But there was no reply. The next morning, a little boy who lived nearby ran over. He said that last night, a man had stood outside the gate for a very long time. A man with a scarf covering half his face, wearing a coat covered in sand and dust. He stood in the rain, looking at the house, then left before dawn. No one knew who he was. No one knew where that message had come from. No one knew whether Amir was still alive or had died. No one knew where that message had been sent from. But from that night on, everything in that small house changed. Every morning, she woke up earlier than before. She swept the yard again. She fixed the old curtain. She took out the newest set of blankets to dry in the sun. She even went to the small market at the end of the street to buy the type of tea that Amir used to like drinking. The seller looked at her and gently asked, "You're buying it for Amir again?" She smiled. "He's coming home soon." The seller said nothing more. He quietly added a little sugar and a few lemons into her bag, because in this neighborhood, everyone knew she was living on hope, and no one wanted to be the person who destroyed that last remaining hope. In the days that followed, she began leaving the door unlocked at night. She was afraid that if Amir returned in the middle of the night, he would have to stand outside waiting. There were nights when she was sleeping and suddenly woke up because she heard footsteps in the yard. She hurriedly ran out to open the door. But outside there was only the wind. Sometimes she heard someone calling very softly, "Mom!" She would jump up. Her heart beat so hard it hurt. But the house remained pitch dark, only the sound of the curtain flapping wildly in the night wind. One afternoon, she took out the old wooden box from the cupboard. Inside the box were Amir's things from when he was little. A toy car with a broken wheel, an old notebook with scribbled drawings, a photo of mother and son standing in front of their small house, when Amir was only 8 years old. In that photo, Amir was smiling brightly, and she was holding her son's shoulders tightly. She looked at the photo for a very long time. Then she cried. She remembered the days when Amir was still a child. Every day he would run around the neighborhood. Once he fell from the rooftop just because he wanted to catch an injured bird. Once he secretly took bread from the kitchen to give to a poorer neighboring family. Once in the middle of the night he ran into her room just to say, "Mom, when I grow up, I will never let you be alone." She had believed that. She had always believed that. On one winter morning, while she was sitting in front of the door, an old pickup truck stopped in front of the house. A young man stepped down. He wore a dark coat, had short stubble, and his eyes looked very tired. He asked quietly, "Is this Amir's house?" She stood up abruptly. "Do you know Amir?" The young man nodded. "I once stayed in the same shelter with him for a few weeks." She gripped his hand tightly. "He's still alive, right?" The young man lowered his head. "I don't know. The last time I saw Amir was after the attack. He was injured in the shoulder, but he was still alive at that time." She froze. It was the first time in 8 months that she had heard someone say Amir might still be alive. The young man took a small object from his coat pocket. It was an old leather bracelet. The face of the bracelet was a small crescent moon-shaped piece of metal. The moment she saw it, she recognized it immediately. It was the gift she had given Amir on his 16th birthday. The young man said, "Before he left, Amir gave me this bracelet. He said if I ever had the chance to return, I should tell his mother that he had tried his best to come home." She hugged the bracelet to her chest. Her thin shoulders trembled. She no longer cried out loud, because after so many years of waiting, her tears seemed to have run dry. That night, she placed the bracelet next to the phone. She sat in front of the door for a very long time. The sky in the distance still glowed red in waves from the faint sounds of explosions echoing from somewhere out in the desert. The war had not ended. People continued to leave. The houses in the neighborhood grew emptier and emptier. But she still stayed. Still sat there. Still waited. Because there are mothers who do not need to know whether their son is still alive or has died. What they need is only a reason to keep waiting one more day. And sometimes, just one message, one old bracelet, or a word from a stranger is enough to keep a heart from collapsing. From that night on, she still charged her phone to full every evening. But she no longer waited for a phone call. She waited for the sound of a knock on the door. Because somewhere out there, Amir might still be on his way home.